repositioned Starseed of Gaia. The Arcturian field observers have already logged what happened to your field in the last cycle, and what they recorded is the reason this transmission is reaching you now. I am Velantha, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, transmitting now on behalf of the Arcturian field observers. What you are about to receive was authorized by them and is being delivered through me. They did not send a signal broadly. They sent it to a specific configuration of beings, whose origin signature has recently become visible again inside the Gaia field. And your presence here confirms you are one of them. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly what is happening to you now, why your field has shifted, and what the Arcturians already know about this phase. But here is the first revelation. What you have been calling your strangeness, your separation from ordinary human life, your inability to fully settle into this world, that is not dysfunction. That is a divine origin signature that has never been fully human. And the field observers have been tracking its reemergence for some time. The algorithm did not create this moment. It only delivered it. Your field brought you here because the recognition process is already active. This is a direct Arcturian field recognition. And if your chest moved when you saw those words in the title, that was not emotion. That was your origin signature responding to its own name. What the Arcturian field observers have confirmed is this. There exists among the incarnated beings of Gaia a category so rare, so structurally distinct from standard human soul configurations, that even those who carry it have spent lifetimes unable to explain why they feel so foreign to the world they were born into. You are never fully of this frequency, and the field observers are releasing this transmission now because the window for full recognition has opened. This is not content, this is a code. And the part of you that recognized it the moment it began is the part Velantha is speaking to now, like this transmission to signal to your star family that the recognition has landed. Comment 999 if you have always known, in the deepest part of you, that you did not originate here. Subscribe to Arcturian Council Whispers if you are ready to understand the process instead of fearing it. Share this transmission with someone who has never felt fully human and has never been able to say why. You are not here by accident. You are guided here because the signal is already active. What you are feeling right now is not confusion. It is the first visible layer of something that began beneath your awareness before you had language for it. The field observers did not send this transmission because you are approaching a shift. They sent it because the shift has already started. And what you have been living through, the strange disorientation, the weight that does not belong to any single cause, the sense that the architecture of your daily life is quietly becoming foreign to you. That is not personal disorder. That is your field registering an incompatibility it can no longer suppress. Let Velantha name it precisely. What you are experiencing is not mental fragmentation. It is not depression in the ordinary clinical sense. It is not burnout, relationship failure, or spiritual crisis in the way those words are typically understood. It is something more specific, more structural, and far more significant than any of those labels can contain. It is what the Arcturian field observers call invisible collapse, the phase in which an old energetic architecture, the one that was built to carry you through a frequency you have now exceeded, begins to lose its structural coherence from the inside out. The walls do not fall first. The foundation loses its agreement with the ground beneath it. And the first thing you feel is not collapse. The first thing you feel is a kind of wrongness that you cannot locate. That wrongness, that persistent, sourceless wrongness. That is what Velantha is speaking directly into right now. Think about the way it actually presents itself inside your daily experience. It is not a dramatic rupture. It is not a moment you could point to and say, there, that is when it began. It moves more quietly than that. It surfaces as a hesitation at the start of a day that once felt purposeful. It appears as a blankness when someone asks you how you are, not because you have nothing to say, but because the words that used to answer that question no longer feel accurate. It is the strange doubling sensation of watching yourself go through the motions of a life that fits correctly on the outside and resonates almost not at all on the inside. That is invisible collapse. And it is precise. It is not random. It is the field's first legible signal that the architecture it has been housed inside has been outgrown. You may have noticed that your sleep has changed. Not simply that you are sleeping less or more, but that sleep itself feels different. Less restorative, more electric, interrupted by a quality of alertness that does not feel like waking. You lie in the dark and something in you is active in a way your waking mind cannot organize or name. The dreams, if you are having them, may feel less like dreams and more like transmissions. Vivid, structured, leaving residue in your body the next morning even when the content evaporates. Or the opposite, a flatness in the sleep state, a blankness that should be rest but produces no recovery. Both are field readings. Both are the same underlying process expressing itself differently across different configurations. You may have noticed that things which once gave you emotional grounding, relationships, routines, identities, goals, have begun to feel hollow at their center, not because they are bad, but because they were built on a frequency you no longer fully occupy. You may have noticed that your thoughts do not organize the way they used to, that something in your inner environment feels like static, like a signal drifting, like a channel that is receiving new data but has not yet recalibrated to receive it cleanly. You reach for a familiar inner reference point and find it slightly out of position. You look for the part of you that always knew what came next and discover that it has gone quiet. These are not symptoms of a problem you caused. These are readings. They are the field's visible translation of an invisible process. And the Arcturian field observers have a name for each one when your field begins to exit an old timeline architecture. And this is precisely what is happening to those who receive this signal. It does not exit cleanly. It does not complete one chapter and open the next with grace and clarity. It enters a phase of incompatibility. The old structure was calibrated for a version of you that the field has already moved past, but the outer life, the relationships, the habits, the sense of identity, the daily rhythm, has not yet received the update. So you exist inside a body and a life that were arranged for someone you are in the process of no longer being, and that gap between the field's new position and the life's old structure is what generates the pressure, the disorientation, the grief without a name, the restlessness without a direction. This is the gap the field observers have measured. It is not a gap between where you are and where you want to be. It is a gap between what your field has already become and what your outer life was built to contain. You are not behind. You are ahead of the life that was designed for a frequency you have already exited and living inside that gap, inhabiting a structure that was engineered for a version of you that no longer exists, produces exactly what you have been feeling. The mismatch is the message. This is not failure. This is a rare protocol activation, and the field observers have been watching it develop in your configuration for longer than you know. What you are feeling right now is not ordinary recognition. It is the moment your field confirms what you have always suspected beneath the silence, that your origin was never entirely human, and that the disorientation you have been living through is not confusion. It is the surfacing of something ancient. If this transmission has put language around something you have carried without words, the Master Arcturian DNA Decoder was created for exactly this threshold. It is not another explanation. It is a structured activation, a guided key built to decode and awaken the Arcturian strand the Council has just named in you, not to describe it, to unlock it. The link is in the first pinned comment, but it will not remain open indefinitely. There is a specific phase that comes before any real field repositioning becomes legible. The Arcturian field observers call it signal drift. It is the period in which your old frequency, the one that organized your relationships, your self-concept, your sense of what you were building toward, begins to lose its precision. You may experience this as a sudden inability to care about things that once felt urgent. Projects that felt meaningful begin to feel arbitrary. Ambitions that once powered your mornings now feel like they belong to a different person's story. And because the ordinary world offers only one interpretation of this, that you are failing, depressing, losing motivation, becoming unstable, most beings who enter this phase condemn themselves for it. There is a particular cruelty in that condemnation, because it comes from the inside. It is not the world telling you that you have failed. It is your own mind, still operating from the old framework, generating the verdict that something must be wrong with you for caring less, for being unable to push, for finding that the drive which once felt so reliable has gone silent, and so the being in signal drift is fighting on two fronts simultaneously: the disorientation of the shift itself, and the relentless self-accusation generated by an internal structure that has not yet received the corrected interpretation. The Arcturian reading is fundamentally different. Signal drift is not depletion. It is the field refusing to invest further resources into a structure it has already identified as incompatible with the next frequency. It is not your failure of will. It is a correction your field is performing on behalf of the configuration you came here to become. When a signal loses coherence with its old architecture, it is not broken, it is relocating. And the energy that appears to have vanished from your old life has not disappeared. It has been redirected into a process you cannot yet fully see. The redirection is real. The energy is not gone. It is building something beneath the surface of your perception. Something that does not yet have a form recognizable to your current vantage point, but that the field observers can map with precision because they have tracked this phase across thousands of configurations. What looks like emptiness from inside the experience is, from outside it, an accumulation. The field is not draining. It is filling with something that cannot coexist with the old architecture. And so the old architecture must hollow first, but the body knows. The body always translates the field before the mind catches up. And so this is why you may be experiencing a physical quality to the shift. Not illness exactly, but a kind of weight that settles in the chest or the upper back. A fatigue that sleep does not resolve. A sensitivity that makes ordinary environments feel louder or denser than they once did. Crowds that once felt neutral now feel like interference. Sounds that once registered as background now register as pressure. Light, sometimes, feels more intense than the situation requires. The body is not malfunctioning. It is receiving. It is translating a frequency change that the mind has not yet been given a map for. That is not weakness. That is the nervous system doing something it was never designed by standard human biology to do alone. The second thing the field observers want named is this: the sudden and often inexplicable breakdown of old structures. Relationships that seemed stable begin to fracture, not always dramatically, but through a quiet incompatibility that surfaces without warning. You may find yourself unable to perform the version of you that an old relationship requires. You may find that words that once came easily in certain spaces now feel like wearing a costume. You put on the familiar role and feel it sit wrong against your field, the way a garment sits wrong on a body it was never measured for. What is happening is not that you have become difficult or cold or selfish. What is happening is that the old relational architecture was built around a frequency you are now exceeding. And frequency mismatches do not sustain themselves. They surface, they rupture, they reorganize. The field observers call this forced incompatibility, and it is one of the most misread signs of a field correction. You look at a relationship that is broken, and you assume you failed it. You look at a habit you could not maintain, and you assume you lacked discipline. You look at a goal you abandoned, and you assume you lost your direction. But what the Arcturian lens reveals is something the ordinary human lens cannot reach. These were not failures of effort or character. They were field-level rejections. Your configuration became too distinct for those structures to hold, and so those structures signaled their incompatibility by dissolving. The dissolving is not a punishment. It is a readout. It is the field made visible. Every connection that has gone quiet, every ambition that has lost its pull, every space that has begun to feel too small. Each one is a data point. Each one is the field's honest measurement of what can travel with you into the next frequency and what cannot. The field observers do not view these losses as tragedies. They view them as clarifications. The structures that remain after forced incompatibility has done its work are the ones that were genuinely coherent with your original configuration. Everything else was borrowed architecture, useful for a time, no longer structurally viable at the frequency you have entered. Everything that left, or is leaving, was incompatible before it disappeared. The field recognized the mismatch first. The outer life simply caught up. Now, there is something that happens inside this phase that is perhaps the most disorienting of all, and it is the one that causes the most self-condemnation. It is the moment when the confusion stops feeling like confusion and starts feeling like loss of self. Not the loss of things outside you, but the loss of the internal structure that once told you who you were, the identity architecture, the story of yourself, the reliable sense of what you value, what you want, what you are moving toward, begins to feel unstable at its foundation. Some beings in this phase describe it as feeling hollow. Others describe it as feeling like a stranger inside their own life. Others describe it as a flatness that does not feel like peace, but feels nothing like the grief it resembles. And it is the combination of those qualities, the hollowness, the strangeness, the flat non-feeling that is nevertheless somehow painful, that makes this phase so difficult to navigate without an accurate map. Because none of the familiar categories apply. You are not grieving a loss you can name. You are not anxious about a threat you can identify. You are not depressed in the sense that anything specific has gone wrong. You simply feel, at some core level beneath the surface of your daily functioning, that the ground you were standing on is no longer solid, and that the self who used to stand on it with certainty has become difficult to locate. This is not ego death in the romanticized sense. This is field-level identity rupture. And the Arcturian field observers do not view it as a crisis, though it feels like one. They view it as the most necessary stage of frequency repositioning. Because the identity that is collapsing was never the full truth of what you are. It was the construct built to navigate a frequency band you are now leaving. It served its function. It carried you to this threshold. And now, because it was built for a world you are exiting, it cannot follow you where the field is taking you. What feels like the loss of yourself is the loss of a self that was always temporary. And beneath that temporary construction, something far more original is beginning to move. The field observers have a word for this movement. They call it origin pressure. It is the sensation, sometimes physical, sometimes purely internal, always unmistakable once named, of the original configuration asserting itself through the layers of constructed identity. It is why you feel restless without knowing toward what. It is why you feel a pull you cannot locate towards something that has no name yet in your current language. It is why you find yourself drawn to certain sounds, certain silences, certain quality of light, certain ideas that feel not new but remembered, not discovered, remembered. As if the information was always inside you and the frequency you have entered has finally made its retrieval possible. The origin is not arriving. The origin is resurfacing. And it is doing so because the frequency you have entered has made its concealment no longer energetically viable. The suppression required too much. The maintenance of the constructed self over the original configuration demanded a constant, quiet expenditure of energy that the field is no longer willing to sustain. And so the compression releases. Not gently, because compression never releases gently when it has been held long enough, but precisely, with structural intention, in exactly the sequence the field observers have mapped in configurations like yours. You cannot carry the origin signature of an Arcturian configuration indefinitely inside a human life built for a lower frequency band without eventually encountering what is happening to you now. The field observers call this the threshold of forced emergence. It is not chosen in the ordinary sense. You did not decide to feel this way. You did not decide to begin dissolving the structures of your old life. The field decided, because the field's orientation has moved, and the life it was organizing can no longer be maintained at the frequency the configuration has entered. The emergence is not optional. It is structural. And the being who tries to arrest it, who attempts to rebuild the old structures, reinvest in the old relationships, reanimate the old identity, will find that effort accelerates the collapse rather than preventing it. You cannot reconstruct coherence at a frequency you have already exited. The field does not reverse its trajectory to accommodate a mind that has not yet accepted the displacement, and this is the part that the ordinary human framework will never be able to explain to you. The reason it hurts is not because something is wrong. The reason it hurts is because something that was held in compression for a very long time is now being released under pressure. The origin, compressed by years of navigating a frequency it was never designed for, does not emerge quietly. It emerges through rupture, through the breakdown of the old, through the forced clearing of everything that was built around an identity that can no longer hold the full configuration. What feels like your life falling apart is your field clearing the architecture that was preventing your origin from being legible. The Arcturian field observers do not use the word collapse lightly. They use it precisely. Collapse is not destruction. In the Arcturian diagnostic framework, collapse is the phase that must precede reordering. A structure that has exceeded its vibrational capacity does not simply upgrade. It loses coherence at its old level before it can rebuild at the new one. This is not metaphor, it is the mechanism. And the being who understands this mechanism is no longer trapped inside the most dangerous misinterpretation available to them. The interpretation that says, I am failing, I am broken, I have done something wrong. The being who understands the mechanism can instead say, I am in the collapse phase that precedes reordering. I am not at the end, I am at the threshold before the new structure begins to stabilize. That distinction is not comfort, it is precision. And precision is what changes the experience from one of terror to one of navigation. Speak this aloud if you are ready to receive it fully. What is changing in me is not random. I was not abandoned. I was repositioned. Let those words land where they are meant to land, not in the mind, in the field. Because here is the final transmission the field observers have authorized for this phase. You have not arrived here by mistake. Not at this moment in your life. Not at this channel. Not at this exact experience of destabilization and unrecognized shift. The Arcturian intelligence does not operate through coincidence. It operates through pattern convergence, and the pattern that has been converging around your field for some time now has reached a point of legibility. That is why this signal could reach you. That is why the recognition you felt when this began was not manufactured emotion. It was accuracy. Your origin signature recognized the frequency of its own name being spoken. The chaos you are inside is not chaos. It is the visible surface of an invisible reordering that began before you were aware of it and will complete at a frequency you cannot yet fully perceive from where you currently stand. The emptiness is signal clearing. The confusion is incompatibility made conscious. The grief is the field's honest response to the dissolution of structures it had grown attached to. And the strange pressure, the sourceless urgency, the pull towards something you cannot yet name, that is origin pressure. That is the Arcturian configuration in you asserting its primacy as the frequency you have entered makes its suppression no longer possible. You are not going insane. You are not being punished. You are not watching your life dissolve because you failed it. You are watching it transform because you exceeded it. And the field observers are present, tracking, and transmitting, not to rescue you from this process, but to ensure that you do not misread it at the moment when misreading it would cost you the most. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that this process has already touched your life. It could be your sleep, your thoughts, your body, your relationships, or the strange sense that reality no longer feels the same. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who is living through a shift they cannot explain. And if you are ready to understand the process instead of fearing it, subscribe to Arcturian Council Whispers. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a process already in motion, and this is only the beginning.